Welcome to the Ref Room, hockey talk for referees, coaches, players, and fans.
Broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
With your hosts, Smokin, SIlz, and Brad Baumruck.
Live.
The Ref Room starts right now.
And now your host.
I hit the wrong button. Oh, well. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ref Room. I am Smokin, SIlz, joined with my good friends today, our very special guest, Dave Ballantyne. Welcome, everybody. Did you mute yourself or something? Because all of a sudden now I can't hear you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You hit the wrong button. I hit the wrong button. I apologize.
Yeah, you hit the wrong button, too.
How was your weekend, Scott?
Nice and busy, man. Nice and busy. Lots of games. And, plus I had a show in there over the weekend on Saturday. So it's been a great weekend. And, hockey season is just rocking and rolling. I can't believe we're, almost into December at this point.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is right around the corner right now.
I know. It's going so fast. Dark at 4:30 in the afternoon now. Anyway.
It's always dark at my house.
Right. Got a lot of stuff we want to cover today. I guess we're going to start with the breaking news, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, and that is the St. Ignatius JV team was in a bad crash in Indiana over the weekend. The reports that I saw on the news this morning, their bus, and it looked like it was a school bus to me, was hit by a drunk driver in a semi. Is that correct? A semi truck, I believe. And they had reports that the driver was already drunk, that he was swerving on the road. I don't know if the police couldn't get there in time before the accident happened or what. But according to WMAQ TV, they were kind of aware that this guy was out there and in bad shape. It had been called in, apparently. And as a result, we've got a lot of guys that are got banged up pretty badly, I understand. I don't know the details. Have you had a chance to talk to Spence at all, either of you guys?
No, I have not.
I was able to text with Spence, and he texted me yesterday morning. It was about 11 a.m., so, some people that's afternoon, some people that's morning still, and he was still at the hospital. It sounded like he went straight there after everything, so I know that he's probably exhausted right now. And, Spence was on the show with his varsity captain, and, they're a big family over there, so I'm sure he's freaking out right now, which is
I'm sure
just horrible for the entire Catholic school league, and then also, their own personal family. So
yeah, us, all of us in Illinois that know them and work their games and everything else, our thoughts and prayers go out to all the families and wish them a speedy recovery. And I don't know if anybody else out there has any more details that you want to share. You can put them in the comments. We'd appreciate it. So we'll just we'll hope for the best here and get these guys back to hockey as soon as we possibly can. Continuing, it's a tough way to start out, but they did introduce or announce the people that are going to be going into the Hall of Fame that are coming out of the referee community. So I thought you might want to share that with us today, Brad.
Yeah, that's a good one. So our longtime president, Mr. Bill Green, he's going into the AHI Hockey Hall of Fame. When I started officiating, 24 years ago, Bill was...
Now, wait. We have the most tenured official on the show today, finally, okay? It's not you, by the way.
That is true, 100%.
Yeah. Now you're not the oldest one in this end.
And you know what, Scott? I had to ask Dave, because I had 3 names, and I'm like, Dave, which one is it? And Dave's like, I think you got to check with this one other name, because he's like, I think he had a break, though. And I'm like, all right. So they actually were longer officiating, but they had a gap. So we were looking for the longest stretch that went in a row. Yeah. So, Dave was there to fulfill, and, Dave's been around since I was in the development program. First time I met Dave, I thought his last name was Ballantyne.
Valentine, yeah. Happy Ballantyne Day.
Yeah, yeah.
So Bill was the president, I think the second or third year after I started officiating. and he was there for many, many years. He's probably one of the toughest evaluators. Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you get a really good evaluation for Mr. Green, you were definitely firing on all cylinders that day. So he's done a ton for us, done for refereeing, and then he's also done a ton for the state of Illinois regarding a law that he was personally affected by the passing of his son, to protect people and to make sure that people aren't able to get prescription drugs that they shouldn't be able to, and close a couple loopholes. So he's done that, and he's great for the community. So congratulations to him.
Awesome.
And then the man that can't get out of being the treasurer of Illinois hockey,
the
Jeff
numbers
Schlenner.
man.
Yeah. Every year he asks if anybody wants to be treasurer, and we just keep telling him when he retires, his kid better be ready. So that's just the way we keep going. And Jeff does a ton for us. He refunds people. He gets us paid. He makes sure that, not the referees, but he makes sure that our seminars are paid. It's quite a bit of paperwork that he does all volunteer. And he's always there to answer the phone. And, great guy overall as well. And, both of these guys have done so much for our officiating community. It's just amazing. So, true honor to, be able to be the first one to call him, because I heard about it a little early. And I gave him buzzes, and then I kind of let everybody else know. And, now it's official. So we thought we'd wait till now. So
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
Both of you, well deserved. Well
Both
deserved.
of them, exactly.
Yeah. Karen's checking in. Karen said a friend knew someone on the bus with regard to the St. Ignatius JV accident. She talked to the dad of the player. It's an all-out miracle that everyone is okay. Some life-changing injuries, unfortunately, but a miracle it wasn't worse. And yeah, when you see the picture of the wreck, you can understand why. So it is a miracle that they are, they're not walking away, but they all survived that accident, and we don't know how bad it will be moving forward, but we will definitely wish them the best and for a speedy recovery for sure. And then Bill, thanks you for that. You got a nice little thank you there, Brad. All right, our good friend Dave, your buddy Alan is checking in, wants to say hello. Why are you not an NHL reffing? You make a fantastic NHL ref. Yes, Dave would. Dave could, definitely, skate that game and do the job. So kudos to you, Dave. Let's go back. You had a really nice article that was written about you, that you are the most tenured official in Illinois. And we're going to talk about your role as in being in charge of all the evaluations that we do and developing officials, because that kind of ties in with you and Brad as well. But, what is it, 34 years? Is that the correct number that you've been doing this consecutively?
41
consecutive years. Wow.
41. And that's
41 years of getting the book out, taking that test, doing the online modules.
41 that I know of. There might have been a 42nd, but my dad didn't remember what year he put me in the ice to do mic games, so and it's his fault that I started doing it.
Yeah. So Dad is the reason why you're a referee, huh?
Yeah, he ran the Wilmette hockey program way back in the 70s and 80s, and everything was all done differently, assigning stuff like that. So he had his little Mite House League games that needed to get refereed, and so when he didn't have bodies, he recruit me and my friends to go out there and do them. So I think that's where it started, and from that point on, then I think a year or two later, or a year later or so, he got me in touch with Bill Spahn, and from that point on, I was take the test and move on. So I started the name Bill Spahn, and there's a bunch of other ones or older ones out there, but definitely that's where it started.
Well, I mean, I remember you doing my men's league games many, many years ago before I even thought about being a referee, and I've already got 11 seasons in, so I know you go back a few years, probably a few more than that. So good for you.
Imagine
awesome.
The number, the men's league players that all come up to me like, "Oh, you ref me when I was a midget." They're like gray hair and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah. How many games do you think you've done so far? Did you put a rough number on it, maybe?
I want to say it's probably within a few thousand of between 22 to it could be as many as 25. There were some years that we were in a shortage, and I mean I was up there doing 80 games in a month, which
how many gong shows? How many gong shows did you have?
Oh, you know what? It's not as many as you think. I'm only going to remember
Right,
a few that
right.
were just absolutely horrible. I had a state championship game that I think it was the old Flames and Glenview, and that's when they
I
had
know
a
this story.
championship down at I think it was in Joliet, because the whole thing's on the Jaguar tape. They gave me the tape, so I saw the Jaguar TV. So there was a fight right at the end of the game. People left the penalty box, everything else like that. And then, of course, the night there's sitting there just doling out penalties. Mr. Labuda is up in the stands with a bunch of other people. So this is just kind of just like, all right, start calling the stuff, start filling out the little, get the notebook out and start going. And I'm like, I end up tossing. Oh, I have lost track. I couldn't even tell you anymore. It was more than a half a dozen, and probably in 3 or 4 of them were on the Flames that actually won the game, and we're going to head off to regionals and nationals and all that. So they had to go. They had to go figure the whole thing out. I tossed the goalie, which was actually involved in that one, was right, and they said, "Hey, I think you got them all right." And I'm like, "Well, probably did get them." I said, "I think I got them all right too, just writing down the numbers and getting everything down." But I was like, we got the videotape to sit there and start watching this one. So at that time, there wasn't a bazillion video cameras out. It was basically someone has a camera up there, a video camera, and watching this thing. So that's probably the most memorable gong show or bench clear or anything like that that's happened. So
Well, Anthony Fiorito said you used to throw him in the box quite a bit during his playing career.
oh yeah,
Another one of our officials.
the Fiorito name would be frequently with going in the box. So.
You know what's interesting about it though is now he's the registrar. And
Right.
he's getting like quadruple the payback. You have no idea how many emails he gets.
Karma,
It's
baby,
absurd.
karma.
Yeah.
Yeah, karma's a you-know-what, fickle thing. Anyway, today we wanted to talk with Dave because Dave runs all the evaluations for IHOA, and we do, hundreds and hundreds every year, I guess. And, I'd like to talk about the evaluation process. I'd like you to kind of walk people through, why we have it, what the advantage of having it is in order to develop the officials and get them to where they want to go. So do you want to start with a little background on how the evaluation process started and, where you've taken it from there, Dave?
Yeah, so it started way back. This was when Jack Roslowski was the referee in chief. So back in the day when we started doing this was the time that we were still using the carbon paper evaluation forms. If anybody ever remembers the stuff, it was 3-ply. So when you got your eval done, you got torn off the piece of paper, handed it to you, and I'm like, it's just like you're getting a ticket at the ticket from driving too fast or whatever. There's your evaluation. You're walking away with it. So I guess at the time when I took it over, and I want to say it's been 12 years, 12 maybe. I looked back on my emails. I'm just trying to think back if I save everything, and I thought I have. It's at least 12 years. It could be 14. I lost track. But when we started doing it, I was just someone out there and said I volunteered to run and said, hey, I'll eval a game. I was up in Crystal Lake and I said, I'll watching a kids game. I said, I'll eval it. I got some forms in my bag. I'll just write the games up and send them in. Well, I sent them in and it was in November, and then the call was, oh yeah, you know what? These are the first 2 evals we've gotten all year, and it's like the middle of November. And it's like, oh, all right, well, hey, I'll do more or whatever it is. And eventually he said, I was able to eventually see an entire schedule and try to figure out, or you know what, I can go see other. He gave me access to the entire AI schedule where I can see it, and I'm like, oh, you want to go eval more games? Yep, definitely will be. And so a year later, said, yeah, you want to eventually develop something to where it is now. Obviously, it's scheduling, getting more people involved in doing the evaluations and trying to make it a little more of an organized thing. So had to go from just doing that to actually putting together an entire manual, which I had numerous copies. I think the manual that we now use is actually a combination of it's an old junior manual, and it's something from Canada. It was kind of stuff that was kind of thrown together, put together, and if you ever read through the thing, it does read right. It doesn't involve a lot of rules, but it basically just kind of goes through what the process is and what you should be looking for in all the categories and all that. And that's what we hand off to all the evaluators, the starters, are kind of like the Bible to work off of. So we developed that, and then from that point, it was assigning games, and then soon after that, Kenny Michael put in the evaluation forms online so that we can actually go on there and just click a link and type the evals in. So that's how it started, and from that point it's kind of just evolved. And definitely I try to tweak the thing every year a little bit here and there to put different things into it, and we've tweaked it to a point of what we're doing up in the stands, not just obviously evaluating officials. We're also now a little more, as Brad knows, we're a little bit of the eyes and ears of the of AHI and IHOA. So when something happens in the rink or the stands, and someone just happens to be sitting up there with a supervisor jacket on, you have someone that can actually report on what happened up in the stands or what's going on out there. You have which is unfortunately has happened more than a few times, that we have someone to witness of whatever happened in the stands, and the incident report. We just go to the evaluator or the supervisor, and you get the good story out of them.
Yeah. Well, tell me.
I think. Oh. Hey, Scott, real quick. One thing I think that a lot of officials want to know is, like the how do I put this? The evaluations, are they random? Or are they spotted? Are we looking for certain people? Are they done by request? Can they request one if they're looking for one?
Yep.
Those kind of things I think people would like to know.
Yep. First of all, the requests usually get handled first and foremost because I take those a little higher. So it's on the IHOA website. Go under the evaluations. There's a link, and it's got my email address on it. Just send me an email. It says you can send me the schedule, which you realistically don't have to do, because if I can't get you the first week, just because depending on what weekend it is and how many people we have out there doing them, I'll eventually just put the name onto a list, and I'll find a game at some point that you're doing and get someone out there to do it. So we definitely take requests is number one. Second group that we work with is a lot of the development kids, or people, or kids I should say, people that are working the development games. So we definitely try to go out there. We evaluate those games. We did the Wheaton tournament that we did right off the beginning of the season. I think we did about 25 games or something like that we evaluated out of that. So that's another group that you watch. But right now, sort of the focus, trying to hit the newer and upcoming officials. So first years, second years, especially after COVID, and a lot of people haven't gotten looked at after they got mentored, and that might have been the only time they've seen anybody. So now we're just trying to see some of the new people out there. So one, to help teach and learn, because once you get past that mentor stage, other than your partners telling you maybe things you should work on the ice, there's no real instruction in game or during the game that can tell you what you need to work on. So that's definitely a reason to, if you want to improve or fix things that might be bad habits or bad habits you don't even know about, those can be those can be cited and told you what's got to be done. But the other point is too, we have up and comings or first or second year officials that we don't know. I mean, that they might have just picked it up just like a snap of their fingers, and they're now really good, and they should be pushed forward and working a little higher level games. But we don't know about you unless you get a word of mouth of someone that worked with you and said, hey Brad, hey, this guy's actually pretty good. But we still want someone to go out there and actually sit up in the stands and watch them and say, all right, yeah, this guy can skate really well. He's got a good feel for the game. And those are the people that we see as well, and then say, hey, we get an evaluation on him and it looks really good. I'm like, push it up the line, let the assigners know to get some more challenging games for whoever those people are that could use it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit. I'm sure a lot of parents that watch games or fans that are watching the games don't know that we actually go out and evaluate the referees. Do you want to explain a little bit about what we're looking for when we're watching our officials?
I wouldn't say that so much, Scott, because one of our new directives too is if you're in the rink, you should be wearing your supervisor jacket. So they know, like when they see the jacket, the logo's distinct. It has the AHI logo on it too, and they know. So the parents do act a little differently when they see those jackets. And I can tell you this: I've been waiting for a game before, and the parents are going just absolutely bonkers. And I'll just kind of sneak up to where they can see me and just kind of see the logo, and there's like a hush over the fans. Yeah. So I think they know what the jackets are, but I'll let Dave cover that other part.
There's definitely a stand. I mean, I've done it too. When someone's going a little above, it doesn't take much more sometimes. Is everybody's sitting down, you're the only one that stands up in the crowd and turns your body and looks up at the guy or something like that. And sometimes that's all. That might be all it might be needed. And I mean, very seldom. I mean, I've ever had to walk and make the walk over to someone. I'm like, hey, we got to do something about it. Sometimes it's just walk or put my finger up to my mouth or something like that, and that's usually it. Sometimes we'll put everybody on notice that someone's actually sitting up in the stands watching you as a parent or a fan, that before they all go nuts. So yeah.
Well, we've got people watching around the world that don't know Illinois hockey, or they're in other states, so they may not be aware of what we have going on here, and they may not have it in their state. So I do kind of want to share some of this with them. The other thing is, let's talk about the evaluation process and what we look at when we're actually out there evaluating. Why don't you walk us through some of the key points that we're looking for, and how we can help these officials get to the next level, because we have so many great officials here in Illinois, and we have guys working, all the way up to pro hockey. So, and they're out working amateur games during the week, and then they're doing their pro hockey games. So let's talk a little bit about that process. And then maybe, Brad, maybe you can even take it a step further, and how once you develop and do well in your evaluations, how you move up the food chain and get the better games and get to the next leagues and the next opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, so when you start off, for the first thing we'll start off just at the beginning is when we're in the rink. We don't pregame and go talk to the officials to let them know that we're there. There's a few reasons for that, because we found out off the bat that when we were doing the pre-games, especially when you got kids and something like that, they get intimidated or like, uh-oh, someone's watching me, and all of a sudden the game's got 16, 20 penalties in the first period because they think they should be calling everything in the world. So you kind of want to have them just go out there and just call naturally like they want, and not feel that there's a pressure of someone sitting up there and watching them. So that's probably where we start out first, because we try to avoid the pre-games. When we supervise games, which we can get into later for playoffs and all that, that's a different story, but we're not going to go. We'll just deal with straight evaluations right now. So as far as what we're going to evaluate, as we sit up there, I have an iPad and I start just writing my notes down. I'll start with appearance. So obviously, we're judging you from the minute you walk on the ice to what you're doing as far as pregame, to talking to the coaches, getting the score sheet, doing everything you're supposed to be doing. But also the next thing I'm looking at too is how you're dressed and your uniform, and making sure everything is, if it's all there, you got shin tights on, the helmet looks right, you're not wearing a white helmet, you're not wearing something that's just completely off or whatever it is. So that would be that's stuff that we do look for is that. Granted, if you're a brand new official in level 1, I don't expect that you're going to have the $150 referee pants on. You got a pair of sweatpants.
50, try 250.
Yeah, gonna have to gotta give them the little benefit of the doubt. I'm like, all right, you need new pants, but we're just gonna let that kind of just go. But just basic other things they can do. So, but your appearance also is just not just how you're dressed; it's also your attitude and how you would conduct yourself during the game if you're professional, and how you deal with people on the ice, players, coaches, anything else that goes on, or spectators, whatever you have to deal with that you're acting professional. So, next category we look at, which is obviously big, is skating. Can you skate? Can you skate well? Are you able to use your edges? Can you skate backwards? Usually that right then and there is kind of where it goes for where we're looking at. There also is a hustle factor I throw in there too. If you're 100 feet behind the play and don't look like you really want to go anywhere and you're just standing around collecting the paycheck, it'll reflect in what's going to be typed up in the evaluation. So you want to actually see that you can skate during the play and then after the play and between the whistles and everything else too. So that gets factored in, but skating is other than that, it's pretty basic. Just you either can do it or you can't, or hey, I tell people, just got to work on your backwards skating or something like that. I don't get really in depth. I'm like, well, I can say something if it's obvious that you're too straight up, you need to bend your knees more, stuff like that. Tell people that a little bit or the higher level officials that I'm watching, hey, tweak this, tweak that. But usually for someone I'm watching for the first time, I'm like, okay, you can either skate, you can't skate, or you need to work on backward skating or work on your edges and your stops or starts, whatever the case may be. So that would be pretty much that. Next category, the next big one is your positioning. And there's a lot that goes into that. Obviously, You're getting to the blue line. You're getting to the goal line when you're supposed to be. Are you able to anticipate play? Are you getting out of the way? Are you just going back to the boards? You're going to end up behind the net. Are you stuck at the net? Places that you shouldn't be. Are you out in the middle of no man's land? Anything like that. That's stuff we will pick on. And normally, to be honest, a lot of my talks after the game, a lot of the stuff I do is positional talk. Yeah, I'll talk about stuff that happened in the game. Some of the games are just, there's no penalties, there's nothing going on, no real tough calls, but usually there's always something positionally that can be fixed or you can tweak in your next game. So definitely look at the positioning. But that's the gist of that. The next thing would be face-offs. So I always figure the face-offs are the most mechanical and the easiest thing to fix because you do it so often and it should be the same thing every time. I look for, first of all, I put in the safety aspect because that's probably one of the places we all know that referees, you're less likely to get taken out by a stick behind your foot, something comes behind you, or the stick, you're in a spot and your head's leaning right over the dot and the sticks are going to come up and you're going to be missing teeth. So the first and foremost, I'll tell people that, hey, if you can take any one thing out of this whole conversation we're going to have after the game is let's fix your face off. You're standing straight up or you're leaning straight over the dot. And even though that little squirt can't really reach your face, that peewee or that bantam, that stick's going to come up and you're going to be cut open. So definitely try to get people to walk away at least with, hey, let's fix at least this. It's the same thing every time. The next game you go out there, you know what, bend your knees more, pull your head back a little bit, and make sure you're dropping the puck safe. And then I can work on little things as how you exit the face-off and how you're getting out of there and procedural stuff, all that's kind of wrapped into the face-offs. But usually, first and foremost, I want to make sure, I would rather, if someone's going to walk away from, I walk out of the room, I'd rather they remember, hey, at least I need to do this to fix my face-off so I don't get hurt. And then I'd rather everybody walk away not being injured. So, and the next category that I can, off the top of my head is judgment. So a lot of it's obviously, are you catching the lines? Are you calling the icings correctly? Are you calling the offsides correctly? You're catching the stuff during the play. You're blowing the whistle when you're supposed to. The goalie frees the puck out of play. Are you getting the face-off locations right? And all that figures into it. Definitely also looking at the penalty selection. Is that first penalty called good? Are you calling everything that needs to be called? Game maintenance of the game. Anything that has to be done. That's all being evaluated as well too, is how you call the game. Granted, if the game's slow, I had one yesterday or whatever the other day. Had one penalty the whole game, so there's not going to be a ton that's going to be coming out of the penalty selection because it just wasn't a really violent game or a really chippy game. Kids just went up and down the ice. But there's all the other stuff that kind of figures into it. Hey, did you do the positioning and all that stuff right? So, but your judgment definitely is being watched. And if something goes wrong or there's a really weird play after the game, we'll definitely talk about, hey, this happened, or we had 4 penalties on the same play, and how we could have done things differently, or what calls were made, and was that right, or how do we put the right number of people in the box, and so forth. So we go through that as well. And then the last thing that we look at is your awareness of what's going on during the game. So are there kids out there with shin straps that are down, mouth guards that are hanging outside the cage? Do I have a goalie in the penalty box? Do I have 5 guys on the bench? Do I have 6 people on the bench that shouldn't be out there? And it's not just for the little kid. I mean, the younger referees. These are I get these in the games that we have the advanced people. Hey, you had a goalie in the box. Hey, you also had someone. I take a picture of it. What's wrong with this picture? Well, there's 5 guys that are 5 coaches on the bench, and you got someone in the penalty box. And I try to put that up there and say, hey, what do you see that's wrong? I'm like, oh, there's this, there's that. I'm like, yep. You guys said that stuff is all stuff you need to catch. I mean, that's all. You're enforcing the rules, and hey, something happens. The goalie's helmet's cocked up, or he has it off on the bench. You need to be the one that's got to pick that stuff up. So all that kind of goes into awareness. Also, another part of that too is how you're working with your partner. You guys communicating well with each other. You guys actually, nonverbal and verbal, like, hey, you're talking between each other, you got stuff you're talking to, or hey, who's covering which zone, and how you're making sure the blue lines are getting covered, and you guys have some sort of communication between each other. So The last part too, the last two parts, should say, is the you get a summary, and some different evaluators do stuff different in the summaries. I sometimes all my notes are up in the higher part. Good game, blah blah blah. See the notes above, and I'll go from there, or elaborate on something I want to elaborate on. And we do have an admin section that it's not seen by the officials. If there's something where the kid did really well, or whoever was out there doing really well, hey, this kid needs to be looked at for higher level games, we'll put that in our admin section. You will never see it, but that's what actually gets seen by the schedulers and stuff like that, and they'll know that, hey, this guy's doing really well, and let's bump him up. So final parts of the evaluations after the game, we try to limit the conversation to 10 minutes or less, especially because we're always going the fact that we figure there's a good chance you're running to another rink, or you're running back onto the ice right after that Zamboni comes off. So we try to keep it kind of quick, short, simple. Hey, if you got questions, I always tell people when I get my 3 points that are good, 3 points that need to be worked on, and then I say anything else and the little nitpicky stuff, I'm just going to type up. You can read it afterwards. You get my email address when the typed up eval comes back. Send me a question if you have something you don't understand that I typed up, and that's pretty much the way it works. Then it goes into a database, and we all look at them. So, in a nutshell, that's it.
I'll tell you this, Dave. I'll tell you this: that you have my email address and everything. I think over all the evals that I've done over all the years, I think I've had maybe 2 officials ever email me to get like a clarification on something. So, I always answer them back. I know that all the other evaluators will. Hey, if you have a question, ask. And, the other thing is that I always say, especially in our development program, is if you and an evaluator aren't seeing eye to eye, so you're just like, what is this? Like, I don't remember any of this. I know you can reach out to Dave always. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to, a senior official that that has been reffing a long time. Ask them. Don't just take that eval and go, I don't know what this is, and throw it away. Because that's just a waste to you and, to what we're trying to do. The big point about evaluations that I would personally like to make is we're not going out there just to go out there. We want you to get better. And the reason is if we make you better and then we have to skate a game with you in a couple months, guess what? You're better, and my game's going to go better, and your game's going to go better. And the way that we all get better is sharing with each other, and that's what this program's doing. It's supposed to be feeding back, and then once you learn it, you should be then feeding it back out into the community.
Yep. We want to help you get to where you want to be in this game here, okay? If you want to be working at a professional level, we want to help you get there. If you want to work high school games, we want to get you there. If you want to work AAA, midget or college, whatever it is, we will try to help get you there by giving you some guidance and getting you to the right people and making sure that you get some opportunities that you deserve. And that's all from the work that, we put in and the work that you're going to have to put in order to get to that point. But that's what the program does. And, right now, as we've been short on refs for the last few years, it's really important. We have guys that are getting put into positions faster than they used to get put into these positions. So, when you do get a chance to get evaluated, it's a great chance to move up. I mean, if you can do the job and you can skate, that's half the battle right there. A lot of the other stuff is just kind of polishing up your act, and that's kind of where the ADP program comes into. So you've got to put some work into it as well to get to the next level if that's what you want to do.
Yep, I agree.
So Brad, if once you guys get the evaluations back from the evaluators and Dave, and he compiles the information, what do you do for the officials that you see on these? I mean, obviously they're going to get some better games from the schedulers, but how do the schedulers, they're just looking at all the evals as they come in, and then are you guys deciding like, hey, we want to get these people into certain leagues or whatever the case? You want to explain a little bit of that to us?
So that's mainly done by the assigners. Each assigner is able. Could you not hear me?
Yeah,
on. I promise.
Yeah. Okay.
That's up to all the assigners on how they work. and move things along. But, there are other things like with the development program. While I run it, I also watch the evals that come in, because if I see somebody, we pulled a young lady that it was off evals, and we saw like 3 really, really good evals come in on her, and we're like, who is this? Like, and nobody knew. None of the assigners, even with these evals coming in, they were using her on these good games, but we didn't really know who she was because she lived way up north, and she would come in, work a bunch of games, and then leave, then come in, work a bunch of games, and leave. So she was kind of elusive. So we're like, all right, we're going to reach out to her, and we reached out to her, and she's running with it. So there's a couple female members that help out with the women's side, because I'll be the first one to admit, especially development-wise, I don't have the answers to the female side. And I'm going to push you over to somebody that I trust. And that's a big thing that Dave's doing here. He's collecting the data, and then we're trying to use that data and help people out. Now, the one thing with evaluations and, especially, we want to get you to that next level that you want to be at. One thing about officiating, we've covered it many, many times, self-evaluation. If you played probably Bantam house hockey 20 years ago and you want to get to the NHL, I'm going to tell you this. It's not happening. Okay? It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. All right? I wish I could, but nobody's that good. Okay?
We might get you to a state championship, though.
And you want to work Pee-wee games, you never know. But if you want to work squirt, if you're working squirt games and you can't figure out how to work Pee-wee games, or you go work Pee-wee games and you're not successful in them, guess what? We can help you out with that. If you're working AA hockey and you want to work AAA hockey, we can help you out with that too. And, a lot of these things that we can give you back aren't really that difficult. It's just we don't know as first-time officials. And until somebody slaps you upside the head,
you cut out. Can you hear us?
I was done.
Oh,
yeah, I was done.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. All right, very good.
Yeah, we do sometimes match up, especially when you get guys that are a little more advanced and they're working in the mid to high school games and the AAA games. There is a little tier of who's doing the evaluations. I mean, there's 10, maybe 12 guys in the state that I would trust, or including Brian and everybody else here, that hey, I'll send them out and go watch a midget AAA game, and you're going to get feedback because we've worked enough of those games enough, and you know what's going to be needed to go work the next step up. If you want to go work juniors or what are you going to do, we can tweak stuff. We're going to go a little above and beyond what's normally figured. Like, oh, your skating is great. Oh, your positioning is good. All right, well, now after the whistle, I need you to get in front of the bench. There's a goal. I want you to be here. Stand out here. Make sure you're in the traffic lane. Stuff we probably wouldn't be telling someone on the first evaluation because it's a little advanced. So there is a bit of a hierarchy or a little bit of a more of advanced. And I usually tell people, they know when they're going out there and watching a game that's a little higher level that, hey, I know the guy can skate. I know the guy basically knows where he's going to go, but let's help them work themselves to get into they want to work higher level stuff above what we have here. So let's give them some tools that they can go up and higher, and they're not going to probably hear it from some of their partners unless they're working that stuff too. So that's basically how that's going to work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And one last thing too, and because it does happen every year. So if you do get a bad evaluation, you had a bad game, or it was your 6th game of the day, or whatever it was, and you're just dead tired, and it's going to look like that you did that. I always give everybody a second chance, and if for whatever reason, if it's the evaluator, you just didn't get a good vibe, or it wasn't a good thing, I'd normally try it on the second evaluation to get you someone different to watch you. So you're probably going to have a second set of eyes. We kind of always put that into the evaluation program, kind of back from when we started. So there was always like, hey, so and so it just doesn't like me, and they're going to tank my career. That's impossible. Like I said, if Brad does one game, says there was issues with someone, all right, fine. I'm going to go out there. I'll go out there and watch the next game. Well, if we find the same issues, then we obviously have some we got problems that are out there that we need to address. But if we come out and say, okay, that was a bad game. Oh yeah, this guy looked fine to me, or whatever. Then you can at least feel that you've been kind of cleared and all that. So I don't want anybody thinking like, okay, it's the kiss of death that you get one bad evaluation and it's over with. You're more than happy to get a second one. And if it was a really bad evaluation, I see them and I try to get someone to go out there and watch it a second time just to see what really is going on.
Yeah, very good. All right. If you guys have any questions about evaluations or how to get moved up, you can put them in the comments and we'll take a look at those. And I'm sure Dave would be happy to chime in and try to answer some questions if you have any. In addition to that, I got an email from somebody and they wanted to know whether this is going to go to Brad. You know, a lot of you know that we're using Game Sheet, which is the iPad program instead of a score sheet now for a lot of the games. And the question that was asked was, what do we do if we do not get a copy of the game emailed to us? Now, for those of you that don't know, there is a toggle. When you go in there and set up your referee profile, there's a toggle you can turn on with your email address to get the copy of the game sheet emailed to you after the game. However, sometimes it stays on, sometimes it comes off. You have to remember to click it on. So let's say you don't click it on or something. The older version didn't even have that available, so it could have been old software, an older version. But how do you get a game sheet after the game if you need one and you didn't get an email copy sent to you? What's the procedure? Where do you go to get that?
Go right to the IHOA.com. Go to the executive board. Pick somebody. Shoot them an email. I don't get. You know what? Carl loves email. No, I'm just kidding. Shoot them an email and say, hey, I need a score sheet. Can you help me out? Trust me, it'll more than likely find its way to me. I don't mind. You can always email me, ADP, so Advanced Development Program at IHOA.com. I'll definitely get you the sheet. The leagues and the teams are more than happy to work with us. I pretty much have everybody now on speed dial through text. Hey, I need this sheet. So, it's getting easier and easier. But that's the best way to do it. Also, we're still looking into some of that stuff. I do know there's some referees that have made their own game sheet accounts, and then they can go search games. But honestly, I don't know anything about that.
You got to get an email address, and I've emailed to try to get one of those. I couldn't get one. Nobody responded to me. So I don't know about that. If maybe you have some information you can share and enlighten the rest of us. But typically, when you get the game sheet, make sure you hit the toggle so you can get the game sheet, after the game is over.
That's always
just
what I do.
automatically